yet again, I want to say I welcome you all to this event. Of course, I am very, very delighted to welcome you. This is an auspicious occasion. It's a meeting with the government and the governor of Edo State. It's a town hall meeting, and it's expected to be an interactive section wherein we're expected to be updated on the activities of Edo State Transition Committee. Importantly, we are going to be hearing from the governor of Edo State, who is going to be giving us up-to-date information on where governance is as far as Edo State is concerned, particularly taking it from his inauguration, which was on November 2020. The program is tagged The Road So Far. In the course of this program, we shall entertain questions from the Zoom floor audience. As usual, the governor or relevant members of his team are expected to respond. For all of us, we expect civility and respect in our comportment. We shall not hesitate to mute or remove anyone we find unruly or disrespectful to the rules of engagement. My name, once again, is Comrade Lante Ikmonsa Oriahi, and I'm your anchor for tonight. To join me anchor the program are other erudite sons and daughters of Edo State who actually need no introduction. And without much ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Loretta Uboroko. Dr. Loretta, please.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good evening to the entire house. We thank every friend and every member of the Edo State community who has joined us this evening. As with all events, we have set a bit of the ground rules, but we must all know that there are a few things we need to add. One of them that is key is that when we are not speaking, please, could we very, very kindly mute our microphones? And for those who are going to speak, they're going to keep their set times. We'll have time for Q&A, and it's going to be one person, strictly one person, one question. The question is intended to last only 60 seconds. And if it goes beyond that, the system has been programmed to mute us. Please, please, let us be civil in our language. The chat is open for us to use, and periodically we are going to be using the chat. So let me hand us over now to our very big brother, Uncle Sonny Irabo. And as we go along, we will continue to tell us what we need to do to make us have a smooth running program. Thank you, everybody. I still remain Loretta Oduwari Ogboro Oko. Thank you.
Uncle Sonny Rabo, if you're in the house, please unmute yourself and, of course, lead us into this program. Backroom staff, can we unmute him if he's muted, please? Okay, have we been able to find him?
He's in the house. He was here a while ago.
Thank you very much. I was muted and I kept saying unmute my microphone. So I hope the backroom people will remember that. Good evening, everybody. And I'm very humbled to be with you and I welcome you all. I hope that today will be, as my colleagues have said, a very nice and civil interaction, since we're going to listen to His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, about the situation in Edo State, an update, as it were. I just want to thank you all and to say that I'm here to serve you and we'll expect the best from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uncle Sonny Rabo. Uncle Sonny Rabo, you just go ahead and, of course, bring on the HOS so that it can lead us into the discourse for this evening.
Okay, okay. Yes. Once again, good evening, and let me just welcome Barrister Anthony Okungbowa, Chairman of the Edo State Transition Committee. And he, of course, will talk about the other members of the Transition Committee. He's the head of service. And sir, if you are in the house, please go ahead and speak. Barrister Anthony Okungbowa, head of service, Edo State.
Thank you, Uncle Sonny Rabo. It's nice meeting you. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. Governor, Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor, members of the Transition Committee, distinguished members, very distinguished people in the diaspora. Good evening. I'd like to welcome all of us to this event. I'd like to especially welcome Mr. Governor and the Deputy Governor here, and to thank them immensely for finding time to be with us in spite of their very busy schedule. This is the fourth in the series of engagements that the Transition Committee and government have been having with stakeholders in the governance process. First, let me just say that for Mr. Governor, government exists for the people. And as such, every step that government takes in governing the people, the people must get to know what is going on. And so government has made it a point of duty to ensure that the people are briefed and carried along in every process of governance. And that is the essence of our being here today. I'm sure that is what the draftsman of the Constitution described or referred to in Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph A of the 1999 Constitution as amended, when they said that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government, through this Constitution, derives all its powers and authority. So the essence of this engagement is to brief our people in diaspora on what government has been doing, particularly through the Transition Committee. Why was the Transition Committee set up in the first place? What efforts have we made? What transformation initiatives are being implemented by government? And things in that direction. We also expect that at the end of the day, we'll have feedbacks from you, and we hope that with those feedbacks, the process of governance will be made better. So once again, I'd like to welcome you all to this event. I will just be doing a presentation. It's a bit lengthy. I want to plead with you to just be patient with me while we go through, but as much as possible, I will run through the presentation. Your Excellency, Mr. Governor, may I crave your indulgence to just allow the admin to share his screen with us. I could share mine, but I feel a little more comfortable allowing him to share his screen. Your Excellency, sir, with your permission.
Yes, please, admin, go ahead and share the slides.
You are free to share your screen, sir.
Hey, Truett, please, sir, would you kindly turn on your camera and video, please?
Okay.
Excellent, sir.
Thank you.
Then I think you have host rights to share your screen, sir.
Okay, I'm going to request that the admin shares the screen. My admin, yes. Just hold it. Yeah, it's Ohuyo Ernest. So you give that permission for him to share his screen with us.
What's the name, sir?
Ohuyo Ernest. Ernest. Ohuyo.
Okay, I got him now. Permission granted.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Okay. Okay, this is a presentation by the chairman of the Transition Committee and head of service at those states at the public engagement of today, Saturday, 15 May 2021. Next slide. Go to the next slide. Okay, I will just begin with two comments, two quotations. One by His Excellency, the Governor, and the second one from the book Why Nations Fail, The Origin of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. I'll begin with the second one. The town of Nuggets, I hope I got that correctly, is divided by a fence. On the north side is the United States, and on the southern side, on the south side is Mexico. And the inhabitants on the north side face lower crime rates, live longer, and earn 3 times as much as their southern neighbors. Now, two places which share an ethnic background, a geographical location, and climate could be so different. And it reveals that to prosper, citizens need inclusive institutions which create virtuous cycles of innovation, economic expansion, and more widely held wealth. That's, as I said, from Why Nations Fail, The Origin of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty by Daron Ismoglu and James A. Robinson. This slide actually speaks to the difference leadership can make in the lives of citizens. And then the next quotation is from Mr. Godwin himself. Quote, the civil service is the bureaucracy that is responsible for making government function. Accordingly, we aim to re-energize, retool, and reskill the civil service as it has a critical role to play in reforming Edo State. This is going to form the fulcrum of the discussion that we're going to have today, this presentation. Next slide. The Transition Committee of Edo State was inaugurated by Mr. Governor on the 9th of October 2020. The mandate of the committee MDAs. By MDAs, we mean ministries, departments, and agencies of government, and other institutions towards emplacing a governance structure that can deliver on the mega agenda of has consistently made the point that for government to function effectively, it must have an effective civil and public service. In fact, it describes the the public service in general as the engine of government, and that without a good and effective engine, it's impossible for a vehicle to go to its place of destination. As such, important that that engine of government, which is the public service, functions effectively. So Mr. Governor has identified the need to strengthen the public service so that it can effectively play its assigned role in the scheme of things. At the moment, the public service is weak, although efforts have been made over the past 4 years, 4.5 years now, to improve on this capacity to deliver. But the position now is that it is not strong enough to effectively take on its responsibility, and that's why all the efforts have been made. We'll just take a look at the head count. First, the core civil service. On the whole, the total personnel that we have for the public service is 33,470. And that's made up of the core ministries, which have 4,236. And then the other parts of the public service, including agencies, boards, local government workers, legislature, judiciary, civil, and senior secondary, 29,181. Altogether, 33,470. Okay, now in terms of cost, it costs the government of Edo State nearly 22 billion yearly to pay salaries and allowances of public servants. And if you put that together with pensions, what you have is nearly 40 billion per annum. we look at the age profile of the service, at the moment, there are more people from 45 years to 60. You know, the retirement age is 60. But there are more people between 45 and 60 than the other side of it. So it means that we have an aging service. We have 94 ministries and departments and agencies of government. Next slide, please. So from the data that we just supplied, three issues arise. First, the cost of personnel, the cost of payment of salaries and allowances. Is it justified? And then what value is government getting from the huge expense in terms of salaries and allowances? Can we make service a lot more productive to secure the interest of the public? And then looking at the number of MDAs, do we really need 94 MDAs? How do we achieve a lean government without sacrificing quality? Can we merge MDAs and still achieve the same or even better outcomes? Then is the service understaffed in terms of quality and quantity? What critical injections do we need to make into the personnel profile of the service to achieve optimal performance? These are the issues that have engaged the attention of government and, of course, the transition committee over the past few months.
Our HOS, sir, please, I hate to interject, but if we can just make your slides full slide view mode so people can view it better.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll try and do that. Okay, is it better now?
No, sir. It just needs to be slide view. That way it takes the whole of the screen and the audience can full screen view mode.
I think that's where we are now.
The presentation, then probably on the right side, he has to move because it's still allowing the slide to show the split into two.
Bigger slide should be the one on full screen, not the small one.
So you have a thumbnail and then a sub-screen. So you can remove the thumbnail and make it a full screen.
Exactly, by using the mouse to move this thing out to the left, to the right, sorry. Yes, just move it completely out. Don't that.
I'm sure Ernest has got it now. We will let him sort it out.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, the slide before this one. Okay, over the years, what has happened is that people were just brought into the public service, not because they deserve to be there, but because they knew one person or the other who could help them in. You know, it used to be the case that if you knew somebody in government, you could come into the service, whether you deserved to be in service or not, whether you had the qualities to be there or not, the fact that you knew somebody was just enough for you to come in. But Mr. Governor has decided that never again would that happen in the public service of Edo State, and is making very serious efforts, which we will discuss in the course of this presentation, towards changing the paradigm. Okay, next slide. How are we addressing these issues, these challenges? Next slide, please. Okay, now we refer to this slide as Obaseki's philosophy of governance. In the first term, there was a thread that ran through governance. It was what we call the thematic pillars, and there were 6 of these pillars. We had institutional reform, we had economic revolution, we had culture and tourism, we had infrastructure development, we had environmental sustainability, and then we also had social welfare enhancement. Since the beginning of this term, we have expanded these thematic pillars. And so basically, what we're doing now is to build a modern public service where efficiency, productivity, and service delivery are all acts. Successful delivery and efficient use of those state public infrastructure and assets to encourage and facilitate good public service experience. We're ensuring that good healthcare, education and sports programs of global standards are available for all in the state with value for money delivered, and also achieve improved living conditions. We're looking at holistically developing through sustainable economic growth to generate employment opportunities and ensure citizens' empowerment. We are becoming the premier destination, that's our hope, with the efforts that we're making for leisure, for culture, for heritage, with the potential for business tourism. And then we hope to attain acceptable global standards in environmental waste management and improve access to clean, potable water. Next slide. Now we have MEGA, making Edo great again. What does it entail? For us, our vision is that before 2050, Edo State will be the best state to live and prosper in Nigeria. And then the mission, of course, is making Edo great again, MEGA. We're working on governance reforms. How do we intend to achieve that? We're working on governance reforms. We're working on government as an enabler, large local sustainable economy. We are very concerned about technology and data-driven governance. Now we'll talk about e-governance, we'll talk about it more later. And we're talking about citizen-centric leadership that is interested in the welfare of the citizens, that is driven by the citizens themselves, and then building physical and digital infrastructure. Business line. Our aspirations are to develop a modern and progressive state where every citizen is empowered to live with opportunities to live life in its fullness, and then to make the state an economic hub and the number one choice for investors, both foreign and local. And then thirdly, to improve the ease of doing business in the state and be ranked number one in Nigeria, both for startup and existing businesses. Okay, move to the next slide. Okay, now the transformation project objectives. I said earlier that the public service is being transformed because it's the engine room of government, just as the governor has consistently stated. And we cannot have an effective government that delivers quality governance to the people without having a very effective public service. So what are our transformation project objectives? In line with the overarching aspirations of government and the 6 thematic pillars, the Civil Service Transformation Enhancement Project is to build a modern public service where efficiency, productivity, and service delivery are the hallmarks. The clear objectives are as follows. 1, we are creating a robust and efficient organizational structure. We are addressing people and capacity requirements. We're establishing and enhancing processes and systems for improved delivery and efficiency. We are strengthening service delivery capacity. We're enhancing availability and use of technology in the service. That's key to us. We are creating and sustaining a high-performance culture, which was not there before. We are ensuring statutory compliance with relevant laws, which is also crucial. And then we are creating a workplace that inspires and motivates. Please go on. Civil service and public service reforms. Government recognizes the civil and public service as the, go on. Okay. Okay, the most important single institution affecting the lives of the citizens of the state. And then also the primary organ through which government engages with the people to deliver services. The third point, why is it not moving well? As a vehicle for implementing policies and programs to achieve the aspirations, and of course, like I said earlier, as the delivery engine of government. Oftentimes, people have connections or contact with government when they have contact with the public service. The first port of call for most people when they engage government is the public service. And so we are of the opinion that if the public service is strong enough, is effective enough, then the idea that people will even have a government in the first place would change unlike what it was in the past. So these are 4 major areas that we're looking at going forward. Okay, now we are actually doing a phased approach to transformation of the civil and public service. We've done phase 1. There were 2 pilot MDAs, the Ministry of Finance and Office of the Accountant General, which formed this pilot phase. And so we looked at development and performance management framework. And then the second phase, which we have also done, 21 MDAs were involved in that. Here we looked at what we have done in phase 1, what the challenges that came out of phase 1, and then we try to take care of them in phase 2. We are now in phase 3, and there are 71 MDAs involved in this. We're also working on a transition plan and then implementation of phase 2 initiatives as well as other transformational support programs. Please go on. Now we have a new operating model for the public service. What talents do MDAs require? We're looking at that very, very closely. And then how would the MDAs measure effectiveness? We're also looking at that closely. How the MDAs are organized to deliver on their roles. We're looking at that closely. How MDAs execute their work. We're looking at that closely. What are the expected values and behaviors? What enabling technology do the MDAs require? So it's a holistic approach to developing and transforming the MDAs. Now, we are having a shift from transactional to strategic roles for the MDAs. Initially, or before now, it was basically predominantly transactional. But now we're looking at a more strategic role that focuses on enhanced organizational performance. The strategic direction is very clearly stated here. We are hoping to align key activities and programs with the strategic direction and organizational needs of the government. We are going to be a high performance management culture that recognizes and retains high performance. You know, before now, we've had problems with retaining our best hands in the public service. A lot of our people come in and then go away because they are attracted, you know, by the private sector. But we intend to retain them by the transformation that we're doing, and then to also handle employee transactions and inquiries and leverage technology, which is the most important to enhance vendors, suppliers, and budget management. Please go on. I'm just running through. Now, our focus is to reskill and retool the civil servants, and then adopt accelerated capacity building strategies that will produce highly knowledgeable, skilled, and talented civil servants in the various discipline areas of the service. We are re-engineering the civil service organization. We're improving organizational structure through process re-engineering. So that we can become a best-in-class civil service that provides fast, accurate, high-quality, proactive, and responsive services. Next slide, please. Our focus, that's a continuation, inclusiveness and ownership. The transformation exercise aspires for inclusiveness and encourages civil public servants to take more pride and ownership for results achieved. We're working with a consultant on this, but what we're doing is what, like we call in law, autonomy. We're building a system from within. And so we're not importing anything from outside. We're just trying to ensure that our people understand what we're doing and take ownership of it so that they can drive the process themselves and become owners of the process. We're embedding shared values and culture, developing a high-performance culture that encourages patriotism, moral values, ethos, and integrity. Thus, developing civil public servants that are highly resilient and uphold the principles of integrity and accountability. Before now, that has been lacking, and so we're intending to build on that very, very strongly. Initiatives implemented and or are ongoing. We're doing staff accounting and verification exercise. We've done that. We have established the 2021 MDA performance scorecard. And I think it's important I say something about this a bit. Before now, the attitude in the civil service and public service was that, well, like the saying, local balance, government work, and show that they put down, they don't put down for head. And so when it's too heavy, you just, put it by the side. But we are trying to ensure that what you earn as a civil servant, or what you get as a civil servant, you earn it. In other words, we're developing a performance scorecard. Before the beginning of every quarter, we'll sit down with civil servants and public servants, and we'll look at what you should achieve over the next quarter. We'll give you your KPIs. You develop them yourselves anyway. And at the end of the quarter, we'll come back to us. You come back to us, we'll sit down and look at what you have done over the last quarter, where you did well, where you could have done better. We'll point them out, and then together we'll chart the way forward. We are setting up and implementing a reward and recognition system that acknowledges excellent performance for individual staff, as well as departments. Before now, morale has been very poor in the public service. The government is building that up. So it's not just that, oh, where when I'm promoted, when my mates are promoted who came into service with me, I'm also promoted. Performance is key now. And so when you perform very well, we also give you a reward or recognition. So we are building that system, we're developing it. We're developing minimum standards for Edo State government office buildings, covering technology, health, safety, security, and welfare requirements. And then we are implementing all of these in all buildings. I'm sure in the course of this presentation, you'll see the way our public buildings look like now, like what it used to be. I recall very well years ago when I was in the Ministry of Justice, you would have difficulties even having photocopiers. You go out to photocopy things, but now things have changed significantly. We'll give you an idea of what our buildings look like now and the facilities that we have in there. We are developing strategies to optimize the use of staff and service delivery. We are filling critical vacancies in the civil and public service. We are addressing staff structure. We'll talk about this a little more later. Then we have support development and implement annual business plan for MDAs to drive quarterly business performance reviews in Edo State government. We talked about that earlier. The other initiatives, we are adopting the competence management system and creating a database of competencies. We're implementing coaching and mentoring programs. We are developing strategies for managing mismatch of persons in positions. We are commencing career and succession planning. We're providing tools for organizational collaboration, communication, shared database, memory and knowledge management. We're doing culture survey and transformation. We're doing change management and communication, trying to win the hearts and minds of civil servants. Next slide. Okay, at the moment, massive recruitment of personnel is going on. The effort is to plug identified personnel gaps in the public service. And merit is the underlying consideration. Just some few days ago, some people came here to the office to interview me. And in a funny manner, they said to me, employment is going on. When are we going to have the different lists? And then they told me what happens in universities and the polytechnics where you have the VC list and you have the rector's list. They said, when are those other lists going to come out? I told them, and that's what we're doing in Edo State. And that's the first time that that's happening in the state, where about 1,590 something people are being brought in into government service, into the public service, almost in one first role, and everyone is being brought in on merit. As a matter of fact, what we have done, which I've taken time to also explain, some people earlier today, is that it is entirely, the process is entirely merit-based. In addition to the above, other far-reaching policies and strategies aimed at making Edo great again are being developed for implementation by the incoming cabinet. Go on. So what we're doing is that we are repositioning the public service, we are preparing the public service, and we're professionalizing it to serve the interests of the public. This public service must be citizen-centric. As I said earlier, we're bringing in 1,594 persons across all cadres to fill critical vacancies, and we're doing that over the next 3 months. A lot of questions have come in that regard, some of which I answered just earlier. You know, there are two areas we are bringing people in, this core civil service and then the public service. The core civil service has to do with the ministries, and then those other parts of the public service that do not have to do with the civil service, you know, the agencies, the departments of government, and you know, education and all those areas. We have about 916 that we're bringing in the public service, and then 678 in the civil service. That's about 1,594. Next slide. Let's run through. Like I said earlier, just one list, merit list. As the governor said, the survival of the public service is at stake. We cannot compromise on merit. I'll just quote him. He said, government succeeded in the First Republic because the public service was effective. That's a statement by Mr. Governor. And of course, he also made us know that the glorious years of the public service were the years between 1960 and 1975. And what happened during this time, the public service was quite effective. The civil servants and public servants did what they had to do. They showed courage to take decisions, even in the face of some controversies, but they were firm and they did what they had to do. And so government succeeded during that time because we had an effective public service. Now, there are difficult decisions to take, like the one I just mentioned to you. A lot of people, you know, are interested in the appointment process. And when we say governor has shown courage and leadership capacity to take those decisions, I take it there. Let me also just quickly mention that this process is bringing in about 64 first-class graduates of Edo State origin. And indeed, that's the first time that will be happening in Edo State, because we are building a service that we believe should accommodate the very best in the system. And so Mr. Governor has directed that those 64 persons be brought in, first-class graduates from the different universities in Nigeria, into the service of Edo State. Next slide. Okay, we're also trying to achieve a lean government. We're streamlining ministries, departments, and agencies of government. We're collapsing some into others. We're creating some new ministries and agencies. For instance, we're talking about creating the transportation ministry. Okay. The Edo State Diaspora Commission is also in the offing. Okay, let's just run through. Please go on. Okay, go on. Next slide, next slide. Next slide. Okay, just the one before the last one. Okay, training and retraining is something we're really very bothered about. Mr. Governor has established a first-class, world-class John Odighi Oyegun Public Service Academy. You'll see some pictures of that in the course of this presentation. It's the very best in this area. I've been talking with my colleagues, other heads of service in other states, and I can safely and firmly say that there's none like we have as the John Odighi Oyegun Public Service Academy in this part of the country. I say that with every sense of responsibility. Please go on, next slide. Next. Okay, justification for the reforms. I'll just try to be brief. Our people voted massively for this administration. And Mr. Governor has consistently said something. You know, that government cannot afford to fail them. If you were here during the elections, you could see people who couldn't walk, who were practically carried on the backs of others just to go and vote for this government. And so government recognizes that the trust and the confidence that the people have invested in this administration are really very, very high. And so government cannot afford to fail them. That's one justification for the reforms that we're doing in the public service at the moment. And then government cannot afford to be run in a manner that excludes the people from the decisions of government. Government is about the people, like I said earlier, and not just the people in power. Next slide, please. Now, it's also important that the people for whom government exists must have more than a passing interest in governance and must have a buy-in into it and own it. And of course, the bureaucracy and the government must be run in such a transparent manner as to engender or attract the interest of the people. Next slide. Mr. Governor has also consistently said that there's need to build institutions and not individuals. Over time, we have built individuals and not institutions, and that's the problem we've had with governance. We've also had other areas of attention. The civil service has been a major focal point of the transition committee's attention in view of the fact that it's the foundation of fulcrum of government. But it has not been the only area of attention. Government has invested massively in power. Government has invested in security. Government has invested in infrastructure. Government has invested in education. I'm sure you know that's become public knowledge now that a lot of states are coming in, to take a cue from what we have done here, or from what Mr. Governor and his team have done here in education. In spite of the fact that at the moment the rains have set in, but government is continuing to work on roads, doing new roads and working on the old ones. And of course, I need to also mention the COVID-19 response initiative of the state government have been widely acclaimed as one of the best run anti-COVID-19 initiatives in the country. The commission has interrogated all these issues, all these development efforts of government, and has offered useful recommendations by way of advisory notes on these areas. Next slide, please. And those in diaspora in focus. Like I said earlier, the purpose of our engagement is to talk with you, to have interactions with you, and to seek your input into developing a proper, effective governance framework. The intention is to obtain needed feedback from you to strengthen the governance structure. Next slide. Now, it's important, and this is the message that we want you to take away. There's a new way that government is running now, unlike what it used to be, where people came into government because of what they could get out of government. That is changing because Mr. Governor is changing all of that. We can no longer do, like he says, we cannot continue to do the same thing and expect things to be different. Stakeholder interest in governance must align with the interests of the people. Governance must be thoroughly service and citizen-centric. Promises made must be fulfilled. That's very crucial. Mr. Governor went through all the 192 wards of the state in the course of the electionary campaign. And in each of these wards, he made promises. And unlike what used to be the case when politicians made promises during an election, pre-election campaign, and left the promises where they made them, Mr. Governor made a compilation of each of these promises made in each of these wards. And why did he do that? He intends to fulfill them. And so he has said sacrifices must be, at demand of everyone in government and out of government. And those in diaspora must show interest in governance. That's the message we are giving you. Next slide. MEGA is achievable with the support and cooperation of those in the diaspora and indeed all stakeholders. The committee's assignment is to prepare the ground for effective takeoff of government. The commitment of our people in diaspora to the success of MEGA should be in supporting the ongoing reform process. With your commitment and that of the reform bureaucracy added to the passion and commitment of Mr. Governor and the Deputy Governor and the government of Edo State, we shall have resounding success in making Edo great again. Just before I hand over, I'd like to, I'd like to just bring up a slide. It's not part of this, but with your permission, we'll just go to that one. It's on investment. Just a minute. How you can invest in the public service. You can find it? I'm sorry, just a minute, please. Okay, this slide speaks to the investment opportunities that we have in the state public service. Just to also let us know, we have a public-private partnership agency in place. And that agency is working very, very hard to identify areas of collaboration between our people in diaspora, not just our people in diaspora, the private sector and government. But we know that because we're speaking to our people in diaspora and they're investment conscious, we think that it's important to present this slide. How can you invest in the public service? The government of Edo State, under the leadership of His Excellency Godwin Obaseki, is open to collaborations with the diaspora for the purpose of creating mutually beneficial partnerships, which will both enhance the pedigree of interested persons and also galvanize development in the state. We have said earlier that the public service is the fulcrum of government. Therefore, investment in the public service is investment not just in good and effective governance, but also a strategic investment into the development of the state. If you have an effective public service, you would have an effective government. And of course, government can therefore deliver to the people quality governance. So if you invest in the public service, you're actually investing in good governance. And that's the best investment. There are some areas that you may need to take a look at in the course of deciding whether to invest in the public service. Infrastructure. A lot is being done in the area of infrastructure at the moment by government. I talked about the John Odigio Training Institute or Training Center. Of course, the Secretariat now, our Secretariat is one of the best in this line. But a lot more infrastructure is coming on board. And I think that the diaspora, anyone in the diaspora can decide to take on some of these investment opportunities and either work with government or go all out to invest heavily in ensuring that the infrastructure in the public service is enhanced considerably. Intellectual property, human capital development. A lot is going on at the moment. Government is training and retraining its workforce for effectiveness. I talked about the John Odigio Training Institute just now, and the technology there needs to be improved upon and is being improved upon, but the private sector can assist government to provide technology, the best technology, in that property. Yes, please go on. And then also help government to take some of its costs in terms of training and retraining of its personnel. I talked about this earlier, information communication technology, e-governance. How can you invest in that? There's a lot of investment opportunities. This is just a slide that is still being developed, and hopefully in the course of time, the diaspora will be informed. Thankfully, with what Mr. Governor is doing with the Diaspora Commission, which is coming on board, the collaboration will be a lot easier. We'll feed you with a lot of information as to how you can invest in the public service. Like I said earlier, investing in the public service is the best investment because it is investing in good governance. So once again, I want to thank you. I appreciate you for your time. God bless you. Thank you very, very much. We'll be willing to take some questions after Mr. Governor would have spoken, and then also Mr. Comrade Austin Osakwe, with your permission, Comrade Austin Osakwe, to come in to just speak a little and break some of these things down. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you.
Yes, please. I want to thank the HOS for that very elaborate, opening. At this time, please, can we unmute Austin Osakwe to just observe that we have His Excellency the Governor of Edo State, Governor Godwin Obaseki, in the house. He's been in the house of Edo State, and that is talking of Deputy Governor Philip Shuaibu right in the house. We recognize your presence, and we are glad you are in with us. Please, can we unmute them while we expect Osakwe to take the floor right now? Please, Austin Osakwe.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank and welcome everyone who has joined us from around the world. Thank you so much. Thank you, Head of Service and Chairman Transition Committee. I have no slides, so I'm just going to speak for a few minutes because I realize that time is far gone. to dwell on a few other aspects of the transition committee work, which may not have been drilled into. The first is to mention that, yes, all of these reforms, which are ongoing, are centered around attaining good governance and discharging more effective public service delivery. But we realize that this cannot be done without the ownership of the people, ownership by community. And I like to say that the diaspora is one major community that we desire would own this process of reforms across the state. If we say that the people should be at the center, we are simply saying that governance is a social contract between the people and government. I hope I'm coming across, please.
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. So we're looking at the social contract between the government and the people. For this purpose in Edo State, the People's Democratic Party presented Mr. Godwin, Obaseki, for the office of governor. Like the HOS said, he went across 192 wards across the state, perhaps the first time that has been done. Now, the party and the governor made promises to the people while asking for their votes. So they were making an offer. People of Edo State, voting population, give me your votes, give us your votes as a political party, and we are going to do this and that and that. The people accepted that offer by going all out to vote for the candidate of the party and by implication, the party. After they had voted and the party has power in its hands, what does it do? The people will go a step further to furnish some level of consideration to deepen this contract. Government wishes to tar roads. Government wishes to build more health centers. Government wishes to build schools and train teachers. Government wishes to do this and that and that. However, where does the money come from? That's where the consideration is. We have a misconception in this part of the world, and it's been with us, especially in Nigeria here, that government has all the resources that it requires to serve the people by way of provision of infrastructure, by way of provision of security, welfare for the citizenry. But that bubble has been burst. We now know that the so-called money that government is said to have, it does not have it. And that's why things are not working. We have always relied on oil. We know what has happened to oil. Apart from the fact that oil is not an infinite resource, we also know that there's oil glut. The prices are crashing. How many countries are willing to buy oil from us anyway? So the reality is that government does not have all the resources to provide for the people. But in other societies, and I'm happy that the diasporans are here, in other societies, what happens is that everybody within the community puts a little of their resources into a common till by way of taxation, by way of levies. So part of the consideration that the people give for government to perform is that they pay their taxes. Far and beyond that, they obey the laws of the land. They report criminality, crime and criminality to the police. They help to protect public infrastructures in their area. They are willing to be partners with government in not only providing infrastructures, but ensuring that these infrastructures are maintained and protected. This is the way to go. That is what is done in other societies. So part of the reform process has been to engage critical stakeholders to buy into these new realities, especially after COVID. We know now that we cannot continue to do things the old way. So the Transition Committee has listed several stakeholders to be engaged in deepening this message. We have met with the political class. That was crucial. because this government is insisting, and that is the way to go, that we cannot play politics the way we have been playing it. Politics can no longer be that of godfatherism, where a few people decide what happens. The manner in which this government came to power is an eye-opener and should send a clear message that it must be people-centered. So we needed to get political stakeholders to buy into this agenda, that it is in their interest to work for the people rather than for a few people. That's the easiest way to win elections going forward. And it's also a fulfillment of the social contract which both the party and the people have entered into. We also have spoken to professionals. There are professionals in government, there are professionals out there. We met with all of them, their representatives, to seek their buy-in into governance by way of providing critical advice, by way of providing critical support, expert support to government. We are going to meet with the religious class because we believe that they have great influence over the people. We are meeting with the traditional institutions because they are the gatekeepers. We are meeting with youth, labor leaders, civil society. We are meeting with local government. Of course, we are meeting with the NDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies, so that everybody can be on board. The key word is communal ownership, community ownership of the reform process and of governance as a whole. Let me quickly say that it is possible, and I'm sure that those in the diaspora may also have been inundated by questions about when the appointments will be made. That is the elephant in the room. Even those who don't talk about it are wondering about it. Let me just quickly say that reforms processes are gradualist and phased in conception and implementation. And every phase has to be experimented and validated. We have spent time doing this in an inclusive and participatory manner. This governor is not a Johnny just come. He has had the opportunity of knowing what is wrong with the system, what has been wrong in governance. Posterity will not forgive him if he allows it to continue the same way without making effort to fix all of the problems there as a way of going forward, not in error, but more progressively and result-oriented. So the several steps taken so far by government, including recruitment into the civil service, introduction of health insurance scheme, accelerated training and development for staff across all levels of the public service, staff development and optimization, civil service rules review, employee welfare review, and state government asset optimization are part of these processes. But it is validation, the process of fine-tuning and correcting for errors through pilot implementation, engagement with key civil service cadres, and going back to the drawing board that has taken the most time. All of this has, however, been at the level of administration and the civil service in consonance with the policy administration differentiation, which underlines all reforms. The approach, which is bottom-up, is to reposition and prepare the civil service to better serve policy, that is the political machinery. The process of reforms also insists on setting aside all political intrusions and interventions to enable the civil service regain confidence and claim ownership of the reforms. It is after this has been done satisfactorily that the next stage of engaging policy comes in. In the past, we had problems because the civil service was not prepared, that is not sufficiently professionalized and accountable to serve the political process. We believe we are now ready for the phase of engaging the political machinery, and this is where we are. In addition to the ongoing institutional reforms being undertaken by the Obaseki administration, other far-reaching policies and strategies aimed at making Edo State great again are being developed and implemented. They are reflected in the 6 thematic pillars, which the HOS has told you about. So essentially, what has been going on is to ensure that when politicians eventually are brought in, they have a civil service that is professionalized, that will be more useful than destructive. And we know that this has been a major problem in the past. So where we are and going forward is that politicians who are coming in ready public service as far as development is concerned. So this meeting today, first and foremost, is to brief you on where we have been, where we are going, and exactly what we will be requiring you to do by way of partnership with government.